then let's talk about racism. Let's just get it out there. Let's just talk. Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about very practically, very tangibly, right? We know about, and the reason I want to do this is because I think that if we don't talk about the conversation head on, I think we lose it and it becomes watered down and we think we're in a post-racial America when in fact we are not. So let's talk about racism and just how pervasive it was in every aspect of your life growing up. And it still is pervasive in every aspect of my life and everyone's life here in America. But it was a lot more overt. And so we talked about the Westview bus line and you not wanting to get on that one because you knew that one, that was the white bus and you would have to get up and do that and you wanted to take another bus, but it's deeper than transportation. What else was going on? Like, how else were you, we know about the water fountains, we know about that, but like, how else were you seeing it very practically?
Let me say this, as I said a minute ago, to be born in America and in the Deep South, racism was so prevalent until most people just accepted it and went on. It was just a part of life.
Right.
As I told you, I was always fired up. I always felt that I was as good as anyone. When I prayed to God, I'm praying to the same God that everybody else is praying to.
Mm-hmm.
He made me just like he made the rest. So I always had feelings about it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going to town, as I said, and you have to stand up on a bus and there are 10 seats in front of this man sitting there. And that happens every day. And you couldn't sit down. Can you imagine being 7 or 8 years old with your grandmother, whom you might love to death, who went shopping to get you Easter clothes and your hands are loaded with bags. But you get on the bus and there are 8 or 9 empty seats, but there's a white woman sitting there with her arm folded looking at you. And you got to stand there and hold on the rail, be about to fall, holding your package.
Humiliating.
I looked up and saw my grandmother.
Yeah.
On the bus with me, who I was so proud had bought my Easter clothes. But she stood there on the bus, holding onto a rail about to fall. And I knew that she could not sit down, that there were all of these seats, and the woman looked at us, rolled her eyes and folded her arms and looked off. That's just one little signal. Not to mention to think about, just think if you with your little kid and you're downtown and you got to take it to the restroom. There were no restrooms that you could go to. And if so, you had to walk 4 or 5 blocks to a store where the restroom was in the sub-basement, in the storage area that wasn't even clean.
So you had to be extremely prepared. I mean, just going out was a task. Like
my mother used to, my parents had 6 children.
Right.
And when she would take, it was time to go buy school clothes. When my mother would take us to town, she would say, okay, let's eat. You're going to eat your breakfast and then we're going to eat lunch. No, don't do a lot of drinking because I don't want you to have to go to the bathroom. So all of us line up, go to the restroom before you leave home because there's no place decent for you to go to the restroom when you get to town.
Right.
So can you imagine a kid in a tight and your mother hate to have to go 3 blocks to walk somewhere downstairs in some filthy hole for your child to use your child to use the restroom? Those kind of things would burn you up when you begin to look at all the problems. Can you imagine going to town? My mother would take us to town to buy our school clothes. We couldn't try on the coat. You couldn't try on the sweater. You could not try on your shoes. They would measure your feet, and if you put them on, you had to buy them.
Wow. Just the touch of
if you put the shoes on your feet, you bought it.
Oh,
and they wouldn't let you do it in the store. So if you brought it back and said they were too small, too bad, you had to keep them.
Wow.
Oftentimes, my mother would take a sweater and measure my back, take a skirt and try to measure to see if it go around my waist before she could purchase it.
Wow.
And then you look at the same time, little white girls putting on shoes and say, Mama, these are too tight. Oh, take them off. I couldn't do that. I could sit there and look at her and said, I can't try my shoes on.
Right.
When I get home, my mother always try to get them a little bit larger so they won't be tight. Sometimes you get home, they're too large.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do anything about it. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
When I think about the discrimination and the racism and all the things that I went through as a youngster. But one point I just want to keep emphasizing. It was so prevalent until most people didn't think about it anymore.
Right.
They just didn't fight about it. It was just a way of life. But somehow in back of my mind, I always regretted it. I mean, I always had fight in my bones, angry about it, and ready to speak up. Right. I remember once a white woman got in front of me. I was standing in the line a long time for a layaway.
Yeah.
And when right before the lady got ready to wait on me, a white woman walked up and I had to be pushed aside and they waited on me. I raised $100 worth of hell. And everybody in the store thought I was crazy to speak up and say something how I felt to that white woman for getting in front of me. But nothing I could do about it. They still waited on her and I became last. 2 or 3 others came up and they waited on them. Those are the kinds of things that people are faced with all of the time.
And if we're not careful, those types of things happen now, actually, and it's a lot more subtle. And I've noticed those types of things as well, like the kind of priority of service that's given to white customers, you know, versus black customers.